Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today's webinar. My name is Gaurav Singh and I am the Vice Chairman of organization at American Academy of Yoga and Meditation. Today we are presenting the Unsung Heroes of Indian Independence presented by Ganges Mississippi Dialogue. GMD is a social platform under American Academy of Yoga and Meditation through which we deal with three issues: number one, education; number two, healthcare; and number three, economic challenges. Through a series of talks, seminars, and live chat shows by eminent personalities, AAYM endeavors to bring together the think tank of the world. This is a series of dialogue with people as part of an exploration into nature of this universe and its knowledge system from perspective of modern science and Indian philosophy. On 15th August, 74 years ago, India took a step forward, becoming one of the world's largest democracy, overcoming many challenges to global recognition. India has come a long way since independence. It is leaving behind a series of landmarks that define the path from the agony of partisans to strong and powerful developing countries. In 74 years of independence, India has achieved some brilliant achievements. It built a modern economy, which is the second fastest growing economy in the world, maintained democracy, and lifted millions of people out of poverty, has become a space and nuclear power, and developed a robust foreign policy. India's independence movement was a series of historic events and sacrifices by thousands of freedom fighters. While the country celebrates 75 years of its independence, let's take place to salute the unsung, unknown freedom fighters of India like Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, Mangal Pandey, Lakshmi Sahgal, Khudiram Bose, soldiers of Azad Hind Fauj, and all martyrs who sacrificed their life for the freedom of India. To enlighten us on this topic, today we have eminent personalities. Our first speaker is Major General G.D. Bakshi, who is a retired Indian Army officer. He was awarded the Vishisht Seva Medal for commanding a battalion in the Kargil War. The second speaker of the day is Dr. Rita Sen, who is great granddaughter of Masterda Surya Sen. The another speaker who was supposed to join us today was Shri Anuj Dhar, who is an eminent author, and his area of research is Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose and his life. Unfortunately, his father is critically ill and admitted in hospital, so he will be unable to join us today. Let us pray for the speedy recovery of his father. Mr. Sourav Chakraborty will moderate the entire session. Sourav is an entrepreneur and academician. He co-founded India's top He's a partner of India's top 10 cybersecurity service provider. He is an alumni of Imperial College London, UK and Boston University, USA. He and is elected fellow of Royal Asiatic Society of Great Britain and Ireland. He is an avid history enthusiast and researcher. His research thesis revolves around the untold history of Indian freedom struggle and concentrated around nonviolent uprising and movement across the country. He is also a keen political analyst and commentator. I am glad to welcome all the speakers and moderator for this webinar. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have any question during the webinar, WhatsApp number or social media comment section, our moderator will bring them up during the webinar. Now, without further ado, I will turn the time over to moderator.
Good evening, everybody. Myself, Sourav Chakraborty. Thank you, Gaurav, for allowing me the time to kind of have this opportunity to come online and be on stage with such eminent people on board and kind of dive into this entire journey of the Indian independence struggle, which kind of revolves around a lot of smaller events happening throughout the entire 250 plus years that we have been under the British rule. So my thesis, as I'm born and brought up in Calcutta, we actually live in a refugee colony that was formed after the partition, and we all the Hindu families had to move down to India. That is after partition from East Pakistan. So we grew up in a locality based in South Kolkata, and coming up in a locality as this in joint families, we have always had this opportunity to hear from our elders, like our grandparents and the senior members of the family about several events and several struggles that Indians had to kind of take or overcome over the years to achieve this sense of freedom that we celebrate every day on the 15th of August. Unfortunately, as we grew up, the stories which we were hearing from our grandparents and from our senior members in the family were somehow not matching with the stories or the part of the education history that we were um, being exposed to in our schools. And keeping that in mind, I started having this uncanny knack to kind of leverage a strong sense of idea about where and what is exactly the particular place named after in Calcutta. Because Calcutta has been one of the most famous epicenters of revolutionary struggle in India, I had been diving into a lot of intricate research and details to find certain events and certain names which have been lost in the annals of history, specifically due to very heavy names already mentioned in our books. Coming up in South Kolkata, one of the famous names that we all have come across is Bagha Jotin, but hardly we actually stand back or take a step back to realize who actually that person was. And that's how I actually started developing this practice of learning more about my hometown, learning more about the struggles of the hometown, being and standing in a certain place and realizing how that important place was at one point of time and who were the famous people walking down the streets at that specific location. So as my research progressed, I discovered a different side of history altogether, a history which was not non-violent, a history which had its violent repercussions. It had revolutionaries, it had struggles, it had sacrifices, and it has a lot of bloodshed involved in it. But somehow they don't really find themselves a deserving place in our history books, our education, as it's said that since it is out of sight and out of mind for over 7.5 decades, people have literally not realized their worth or their contribution. And specific for Calcutta, they have remained location names specifically because uh, I had this habit of social engineering with my friends and colleagues at various locations within the country and as well as in Calcutta, where I randomly asked about an important place and asked what was the significance of that place or why is it named after that person.
Yet, I think there is some technical issue. The time till the time Saurabh ji is coming back, let us welcome Major General G.D. Bakshi ji, and sir, kindly enlighten us about your views on why we have so much unsung heroes whom we don't know, why we have not glorified them till now, even after 75 years of independence.
Thank you very much for having me on this show. I'd like to remind everyone that this is the 125th year anniversary of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. So, what I'd like to remind you of is that if we are free today, if we are breathing the fresh air of a free country, if there are no boards outside the Delhi Gymkhana Club, Indians and dogs not allowed. DSOI club, Indians and dogs not allowed. There used to be actually such horrendous boards in the British period on that in those colonial times of slavery. Slavery, absolutely. If we are free today, it is because of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose and his and his Azad Hind Fauj. Now, this had a strength of 60,000, and I'd like to highlight that out of 60,000, some 26,000 laid down their lives fighting. This is 44% of the force that was martyred. Almost half the force was martyred. Let me put this figure of 26,000 in perspective. How many, we just recently, about 2 years back, the National War Memorial was inaugurated near the India Gate on the Rajpath, you know. And how many names do you think there are? From 1947 till date, there are 25,580 names which are inscribed on the National War Memorial out of 1.3 million strong Army, Navy, Air Force. From 1947 till date. The total number of our martyrs of the three services are 25,580. Now, here is out of 60,000, this is out of 1.3 million. Out of 60,000, 26,000, a little more than the entire three Indian armed forces put together, were sacrificed by one force, which was the Indian National Army. They did it at a time when the Japanese were in retreat, their allies were in retreat, the Americans and the British were winning the war. They had total air supremacy, naval control, and despite they were in retreat through Burma after the Battle of Imphal and Kohima, which unfortunately they lost because it came too little, too late, and they were in the retreat right through from Manipur into Chinwin River Valley, from there to the Irrawaddy, where they fought a major action to stop the British from advancing, and then Mount Popa, which the British tried to take in attack after attack after attack, but it held out till the British were forced to bypass it and go ahead, leaving that place held in the rear. So they really, really put up a fight. They may have lost the battle for Imphal and Kohima, but they won the war for Indian independence. You'll ask me how. 1945, the British won the Second World War along with the Americans. The Japanese, the Germans, they lost that war. And with that, that was the end of Netaji's project of trying to liberate India from the eastern side. But what I want to remind you all of is that despite that fact that they had lost that war, the British, in a gesture of triumphalism, put 3 INA officers on trial in the Red Fort. Why the Red Fort? Because this was supposed to be the final objective of the Azad Hind Fauj. They wanted to put the tricolor on the Red Fort. Dilli, Dilli jayenge, Lal Kile par Tiranga Jhanda phairayenge. And the pity is that they lost that war, and now the British wanted to humiliate them. So they said, we will torture the INA people in the dungeons of the Red Fort. We will hold the general court-martial in the Red Fort, and we will hang them in the Red Fort. They wanted to rub the Indians' nose in the sand. You dared to fight against us and you lost, and see what a monkey we will make out of you. But the moment they did that, this was the place where Bahadur Shah Zafar had been tried after the 1857 First War of Independence. It had very deep historical context, and the people of India hated this idea of trying to humiliate Indians. Riots broke out all over the country, in Calcutta, Delhi, Lahore, Karachi, Mumbai, everywhere the riots broke out, and the British were flabbergasted. That is the time the British panicked. There were 25 lakh Indian soldiers who had taken part in the Second World War, and there were just 40,000 Gora troops, British troops left in India. Even if these 25 lakhs had thrown stones, the British would not have been able to last. So the British saw the writing on the wall, and Field Marshal Lochinlay, the Commander-in-Chief of the British Indian Army, wrote to the Viceroy Field Marshal Wavell and said, let's plan to get the hell out of here as fast as possible while we can. Otherwise, we will be driven out. because the Indian army is in no mood to listen to their British officers anymore. They have lost all sense of respect and loyalty for us. They have seen us lose to the Japanese and to the Germans. They have won. They have won against the white troops, the German troops. They have won against the Japanese. They have won against the Italians, and they are battle hardened and battle trained. They can throw us out. And even while this talk was going on, 18th of February 1946, the revolt took place in the Royal Indian Navy. Out of 80 ships, 79 there was a revolt. They pulled down the Union Jack, brought up the tricolor, threw their British officers in the sea, went round the streets of Mumbai and Karachi shouting Jai Hind with portraits of Netaji. The British saw the writing on the wall. That very day, Lord Pethick Lawrence, the Secretary of State for India, was flown to Delhi, and he started the talks for transfer of power with the Congress Neta. The pity, ladies and gentlemen, is that it is the INA which got you your freedom, but the power was handed over not to the INA, but to a coterie of collaborators led by Nehru. They had collaborated with the Raj, more or less. They had put up the pretense of a freedom struggle through non-violence, ahimsa, and by starving themselves, etc., non-cooperation. They didn't dare to throw a stone. They said they are ahimsa vadis, and they have been beaten by lathi, so therefore they deserve to be minister. On that criteria, every buffalo in India deserves to be a minister. It's extremely sad, but that is the way they did. And Nehru's first task on taking charge as the Prime Minister of India was to appoint Lord Louis Mountbatten, an Englishman, as the first Governor General. Pakistan had the decency to appoint Muhammad Ali Jinnah as the first Governor General. Here it was Lord Mountbatten. And Mountbatten's first order was that no Indian who had joined the Indian National Army, the Azad Hind Fauj, would be taken back into the armed forces. They were denied their pensions and treated as traitors. This is what they got for freeing India, for getting you your freedom. This is the treatment we got. Out of 60,000, 26,000 laid down their lives fighting. What sacrifices they made, man. And yet, today, in the whole of India, there is not one war memorial, not one stone to the memory of the 26,000 martyrs of the INA. They outnumber the martyrs since independence. Yet they don't have a war memorial. But thank God it's now changing. The Prime Minister has given his approval for the construction of a war memorial at top speed, and it will be done very shortly. We hope to see it in place, and a grave injustice to the 26,000 martyrs would be undone. It is such a pity that it took us 75 years to make a war memorial for our unsung heroes of the freedom struggle, the soldiers of the INA, the martyrs and heroes of the INA. If you are free today, it is only and only because of the soldiers of the INA who gave their all, who suffered so much. Not only did they suffer from enemy bullets and bombs, they suffered from malaria, from scrub typhus, from all types of jungle diseases. The king cobras used to be there, snake bite, everything in those deep forests, but they withstood it all for the sake of freedom. And today, we have forgotten them as Indians. We have forgotten Bose. We have buried Bose. And we only talk of a manufactured narrative of how we got our freedom from soft power of ahimsa. De di hame ajadi bina khadak bina dhal. What a lie. What a great lie. How can you call a struggle in which 26,000 soldiers died as non-violent? That was to big up a particular family, hagiography of a particular family, because the British wanted a pro-British Prime Minister to take charge in India, an Anglophile, a lover of the British to take charge in India, who would carry on with their methods and policies and give a halo of, angels to the Raj. This is the same Raj that caused 7 famines in India. And in the last of those famines in Bengal, 3.5 million Indians died, manufactured famine by Churchill. There is a lot that we owe to the men of the Azad Hind Fauj. I am very hopeful that in the 125th year of Netaji's birth anniversary, we will do justice to those men. We will give them back their lost honor and give them their due in terms of respect. They're not asking you for money. There are just a handful of those soldiers left. 102-year-old Naik Lalti Ram just died 2 months ago. He had, with the helped the Prime Minister unfurl the flag at the Red Fort in 2019 on the 75th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence at Singapore. I am very grateful that you have given me this opportunity to highlight to you the sacrifices made by the unsung heroes of our independence, who have been buried and forgotten and insulted, called traitors by a set of Anglophiles and bootlickers of the Raj. That is the sad travesty of truth. But Satyameva Jayate, the truth alone triumphs. The truth has a very inconvenient habit of coming out, and it has come out now. It has come out. The full truth will be out. And thank God, at long last, this nation will honor the 26,000 martyrs of the Azad Hind Fauj. Jai Bharat, Jai Hind. Thank you very
धन्यवाद.
much. I'll have to leave because I have to go to the news channel, Republic channel.
Yes. Thank you, Didi Bakshi ji, for enlightening us on why and what are the problems that we have faced and how we have buried all our unsung heroes. We have also termed all the unsung heroes of freedom fighters like Netaji Bose and Bhagat Singh as a war criminal or somewhere extremist. That was a very petty thing for us, and all our young generation are learning that same thing. Thanks to Narendra Modi government, now we are going to change the Saurabh is back with us. He had some technical issue and he is back with us. Saurabh, you can go ahead.
Yes, yes. Thankfully, my connection actually went off, and I could fix it at the right time. So I'm glad to have come back and heard what Major General G.D. Bakshi had said, and to take it up from where he left, and going back to exactly where I left as well. So as I was highlighting that through my experiences and through my learnings over the years, I've realized that there are certain parts of the education that have somehow conspirated to remove very major events from our history textbooks, be it of any state or be it of any central organization as well. As Major General G.D. Bakshi had pointed out, that when the British was transferring power, they were transferring it to the collaborators of the British Raj in India. And keeping that in mind, I personally feel that that might have been a very dedicated reason for which certain important aspects of Indian history as well as Bengal Renaissance history had not even found a place as a footnote in the history books. For example, we have never heard about Onushilan Samiti. We have never heard about Jugantar in our history books, but we had a very big chapter on how the Mughal Empire actually worked and who were the Mughal emperors doing what, how secular they were, and what were the processes. But later on, we had one paragraph on Subhash Chandra Bose, fortunately, because of his undying popularity even today. So keeping that in mind, coming back to where I was concentrating, that India actually did not, as I had posted on the 15th of August on my Facebook page, on my Facebook profile, I put up a line that ना जाने कितने चढ़े थे फांसी पे और कितनों ने गोलियां खाई थी, फिर भी क्यों कहते हो जनाब कि चरखे ने आज़ादी लाई थी. And I had a footnote over there that dear Indians, please remember that you have your freedom for what Subhash Chandra Bose did. And it was specifically Bose's INA that was the prime reason for the naval mutiny to happen in 1946, which completely broke the backbone of the British at that point of time. And at that point of time, when I posted this on 15th of August, I had a lot of people come on board, and come and speak that they are not really willing to accept history lessons on Facebook or through a certain person, but they are more concentrating on history which they want are actually reading from the historians who have very diligently and precisely erased very important people from the entire freedom struggle of India. It was just non-cooperation movement. There was nothing mentioned about why the non cooperation movement was shut down. There was no mention about the Chauri Chaura incident. There was no mention about the trials of Lahore conspiracy case. There was no mention of a Profullo Chaki on our history books. And there was no mention of one of the prime starting points of the Bengal revolutionary circle by Barin Ghosh or Sri Aurobindo Ghosh together. So, taking it from here, I would like to kind of give a lead to Mrs. Rita Sen. Rita ji is the great granddaughter of Masterda Surya Sen, the famous Masterda Surya Sen of the Chittagong Armory raid. Her father's name is late Amitabh Sen, who was a great follower of Surya Sen and was arrested with Masterda in 1928. He was detained in Bakura jail in India for 15 years and was set free in 1947 after independence. Currently, Ma'am Rita Sen is from Chittagong and a member of Bangladesh Civil Service. She joined the administration cadre in 1982, now retired, and the additional secretary of the Government of People's Republic of Bangladesh. So I would like to welcome ma'am on board, and I'd like to hear her experience of belonging to that pedigree of Mastada and how what she as a family member feels about a person who has contributed on a larger scale towards the freedom struggle of the country. And by the freedom struggle, I do not mean the non-violent freedom struggle. I mean the proper resistance to the British, for which they were seriously scared, just as they were scared in 1857 for another man in Calcutta at the Barakpur jail by the name of Mangal Pandey. So, ma'am Rita Sen, please guide us through your journey, guide us through your pedigree, your family, and tell us more about how you feel that the education system should have been to give that respect which your family actually deserved, mastered actually deserved.
Very much. I am Dr. Rita Sen, granddaughter of Masterda Surya Sen. Welcome and best regards to our distinguished and honorable persons today. I am very much pleased and grateful for giving me a chance in this valuable occasion to say something about Surya Sen. Firstly, I have to introduce about Surya Sen. I was not born then, but I heard from my father, Amitabh Sen, who was disciple and great well, disciple of Masterda Surya Sen, and Surya Sen, the unsung brave heart whose spirit even shattered bones failed to break. Surya Sen, also called Surya Sen, was an Indian revolutionary who was influential in the Indian independence movement against British rule in India and is best known for leading the 1930 Chittagong Armory raid. Sen was a school teacher by profession and popularly known as Mastada. Mastada means respected elder brother. He was very honorable person in our Chittagong, and all the students of university, school, and college follow his motto and honored him. He was born on March 22, 1894 in Noapara Thana, Rauzen Upazila of Chittagong, and died on January 12, 1934 in Chittagong jail. Cause of death was execution by hanging at the age of only 39. His father's name is Rajmani Sen and mother's name is Sheila Bala Devi. He passed entrance examination from Chittagong National High School in 1912 and got admission into Chittagong Government College. After that, when he was a student of BA in Baharampur College, India, he was invited by his teacher, Shri Chakraborty, who was involved in revolutionary party named Jugantar. On his return to Chittagong in 1918, Surya Sen became the president of the Chittagong branch, the Indian National Congress, and joined as teacher of mathematics of Chittagong National School. So he was named as Masterda. The revolutionary group in Chittagong were divided into two groups. One was Anushilon and other was Jugantar. Firstly, Shri Sen joined in Jugantar party and tried to unite the two parties. Lastly, she united the two active parties in one group named as Indian National Congress Anushilon Samiti. The revolutionaries in Chittagong continued their systematic movement by boycotting classes, courts, organized public meetings to protest the killing of Jallianwala Bagh in 1919. Mohandash, Karamchat, Gandhi came back from Africa and joined the Indian National Congress. Indian people received inspiration from him to fight against British rule. Two important incidents occurred at that time: a strike by labourers of British-owned ship company and another British-owned tea garden labour strike in Sylhet and Kachar. Casualties occurred by bullets of British police and Gurkha police. Protesting this occurrence, Assam-Bengal rail strike took place. Jyotindra Mohan Sengupta, another of my relatives, the leader of Congress, who was mayor of Calcutta City Corporation for 18 years, and Kajamali of Chittagong, along with Surya Sen, came out in scene. Sen gave up his teaching profession and started directing the revolutionaries from Shyamashram established in Dawan Bazar, Chittagong. The revolutionary group in Chittagong was organized under the leadership of Surya Sen. For their activities against British, Surya Sen and Ambika Chakraborty, his another great follower, were arrested. They were released from the jail at the end of 1928. My father was also then arrested with them in 1928. Only he was of 13 years old and a student of class 9. Again, they started their revolutionary activities. Surya Sen established a gymnasium in Chittagong and ordered his followers to improve their physical and psychological condition by doing regular exercise. Masterda trained them for making arms and ammunition as a branch in Chittagong. And he established Indian Republican Army in Chittagong. Our great leader Subhash Chandra Bose presided over the meeting and conference of Chittagong Jila Congress in 1929. Surya Sen was elected General Secretary. In the same year, another revolutionary, Jyotindranath, died of hunger in Lahore jail. In reaction of these incidents, agitation broke out in entire Bengal. Surya Sen and his follower members took oath to sacrifice their life for the independence. They declared that program. December 1929 was the initial attacking date, but date was changed due to police activities. The programs of the revolutionaries on the Good Friday, 18th April 1930, were fixed as robbery at the police armory led by Anant Singh and Ganesh Ghosh, raid on armory of auxiliary force led by Nirmal Sen and Loknath Hall, occupy of the telephone and telegraph building led by Ambika Chakraborty, attack on European club Chittagong led by Naresh Rai, disconnect of railway communication led by Upendra Bhattacharya and Lal Mohan Sen, to circulate the news of revolution by Shukendu Dostidar, Sholeshwar Chakraborty, Ardhendu Guha, Dinesh Chakraborty, and Haralal Chaudhuri. 65 were involved in raid. Surya Sen could collect arms and explosives by raiding armor of Chittagong jail. Masterda appointed Loknath Bol as the General of Indian Republican Army and gave charge to direct the revolution. 14 revolutionaries received martyr on 18th April 1930's war. 80 British Army personnel died. Surya Sen and his group took shelter in the hill. British government declared award for capturing the main group. A special tribunal was started on 24th July 1930 at Chittagong Court in a special tribunal. Masterda kept continuing his activities. He ordered Pritilata Waddadar, another of my relative, and Kalpana Dotto, now Joshi, to attack European club at Chittagong. Pritilata made the attack successful but injured by the bullet and committed suicide by taking potassium cyanide before arrest by police. After that, Surya Sen was hiding at the house of Savitri Devi in Goirola village near Potia, but a villager Netra Sen betrayed and revealed the place of Surya Sen to the police. On 16th February 1933, Surya Sen along with Kalpana Dotto and now Joshi, Shanti Chakraborty, Sushil Das, and Monilal Dotto were arrested by Gurkha contingent. Tarakeshwar Dastidar tried to rescue them, but he was also arrested with them. A special tribunal tried Surya Sen and Tarakeshwar Dastidar. They were executed and sentenced to death on 14th August 1933. Kalpana Dotto was sentenced lifetime. Surya Sen and Tarakeshwar Dastidar were hanged in Chittagong jail on 12th January 1934. And this is the end of our great hero, leader, and pioneer of freedom. He was immensely tortured before hanging. His teeth were hammered off, his nails were plucked out, bones were broken, so that he could not say Bonde Mataram. Many of his fellow revolutionaries were caught and sentenced to long periods of imprisonment. My father was also his disciple and he was arrested from class 9 at the age of 13 on 1928 with Surya Sen, sent to Bakura jail and detained for 15 years. He was set free on 1947 after independence when India was free from British rule. Masterda was the first man who hoisted the national flag in Chittagong along shouts of Bonde Mataram and Inqilab Jindabad and proclaimed a provisional revolutionary government. Before his execution, his last letter to the comrades was, "Death is knocking at my door. My mind is flying away towards eternity. At such a pleasant and at such a grave, such a solemn moment, what shall I leave behind you? Only one thing, that is my dream, a golden dream, the dream of free India. Never forget the 18th of April 1930, the day of the Eastern Rebellion in Chittagong. Write in red letters in the core of your heart the names of the patriots who have sacrificed their life at the altar of India's freedom." In Bengali language, I can say, হাসি কাষ্টে প্রাণ বিসর্জনের পূর্ব মুহূর্তে সহকর্মীদের উদ্দেশ্যে শেষ চিঠি ওনার। মৃত্যু আমার দরজায় কড়া নাড়ছে, আমার মন চিরন্তনের দিকে উড়ে চলেছে। এমন মনোরম, এমন মৃত্যুসজ্জায়, এমন এক পবিত্র মুহূর্তে আমি তোমাদের জন্য কি রেখে যাব? কেবলমাত্র একটি জিনিস রেখে যাব, সেটা হলো আমার স্বপ্ন। মুক্ত স্বাধীন ভারতের স্বপ্ন। 1930 সালের 18 এপ্রিল কখনো ভুলব না, পূর্ববঙ্গের চট্টগ্রাম বিদ্রোহের দিন। ভারতের স্বাধীনতার বেদিতে যে দেশপ্রেমিকরা তাদের জীবন উৎসর্গ করেছেন, তাদের নাম তোমরা তোমাদের হৃদয়ের অন্তঃস্থলে লাল অক্ষরে লিখে রাখো। Masterda Surya Sen is our inspiration to fight for freedom and in every sphere of life. He is our idol. His idea of revolution inspired us to free our Bangladesh from Pakistan by guerrilla war, that is Mukti Juddha. I am also a Mukti Juddha and took part in Liberation War. We are proud of him. He is the pioneer of freedom and our brave hero. His sacrifice for freedom is written in red letter in the core of our heart. Let's pay tribute to him and also our great heroes, all heroes who sacrificed their life for freedom of our motherland. A film was made about Surya Sen by Ashutosh Gwadekar of India on 210. The name of the film is Khele Ham Ji Janse. I requested all to watch this film. You will know more about Masterda Surya Sen. Again, thank you all and best regards for the opportunity given to me to speak about Masterda Surya Sen. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for highlighting the aspects which are hardly known to the Bengalis as well as to the entire Indian country in general, where we could have actually given or paid our homage in a more elaborate and a more honorary way to our martyrs and to our sacrifices or our huge contributors to the freedom struggle of India. So, keeping that in mind, I'm so glad to have learned from you about the sides and the certain aspects that actually created a hero out of him. How Surya Sen actually became Masterda. And I'm also very happy to learn about your association in a family connection way with Jyotindra Mohan Sengupta, who was very fondly known as Deshopriyo. But unfortunately, the present generation and maybe the generations before us, they only know Deshopriyo Park Durga Pujo, but they fail to kind of decipher the differences between Deshopriyo, Deshobandhu, and Deshopran. So, keeping all this in mind, I'd just like to close in and highlight certain aspects because um, this show, this webinar was an eye opener for quite a few of the viewers that we have had. For the people who will be, I'm sure, more aware of certain incidents, certain heroes that we have forgotten, as far as myself is concerned, I would continue this journey, and I'm still working on the thesis that I have been working on for the last few years, which is called a Hinsawadi Andolan. It's not Ahimsa, but it's a Hinsawadi Andolan, where I'm highlighting and bringing forth all the smaller part revolutionary activities that have contributed in small numbers as well as big movements towards the naval mutiny in 1946 that led the British out of our country. So, keeping this as my closing statement, I'd again reiterate what I had posted on 15th of August. That is, ना जाने कितने चरखे पे चढ़ गए और कितनों ने गोलियां खाई थी, फिर भी क्यों यही मान के चले कि सिर्फ चरखे ने आजादी लाई थी. Thank you so much.
Uh, Saurabh, we have a question. We have a question. What question on WhatsApp for you? Why do you think there is a lack of mention in our education system even today regarding these significant heroes of India? If we can emphasize on all the foreign invaders like Muhammad Ghori, Babar, and other people, why can't we emphasize on the giving the teaching students about Master Surya, Netaji, INA, and millions of such freedom fighters? What is the problem in that? Why we have not done till in 72 or 74 years of independence? What stopped us from doing so? And do you think there is any nation who has done something like that?
For example, I'll take it from where Major General G.D. Bakshi sir mentioned that the transfer of power actually happened from the British Raj to the collaborators and the Anglophiles of the British Empire. So they had to set their own standards right. If you actually, I don't want to sound political in here, but if you look into the entire game, Gandhi has been relevant from prehistoric independence times till even today at this junction, where Gandhi was a borrowed name currently, and it still exists. So the entire environment has been colluded in such complicated ways to the last possible roots that it has affected the common understanding of people and the common academic understanding and knowledge base or the general GK from certain point of view. Because when I was young, I can consider that okay, I have a certain knack about a certain thing. I might just know that, but why isn't it portrayed in such a way? Why is there an Indira Gandhi statue at Hajra and not Matungini Hajra? Why Jotindash is a metro station? Why Bibidi Bagh is written on buses? Why Rajbihari is named Rajbihari and why Bagha Jotin is named Bagha Jotin? The people are not aware, and I had this usual knack of reading through. Initially it was a difficult task to find such books and get those things out, but now courtesy Google, it's pretty easy for people to actually kind of do that little bit of research and come out. I do not know about most countries or how they honor their legends or their martyrs. But as Major General G.D. Bakshi said, there is a war memorial in the memory of the martyrs of the INA in Singapore. We do not have it in India, and that is our drawback. That is, we ourselves are pulling us ourselves or the remaining part or the future generations like a crab into the hole, like a frog into the well. We just don't want to come out of it, and we are not ready to accept. And in the present scenario, it is pretty much difficult. As I was saying, that I posted something on 15th August on my Facebook profile. I had this statement that, dear Indians, please remember you have your freedom from for Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose and not Mahatma Gandhi. There were people coming and trying to bash me up, saying that, so what do you want to say? That is the bubble people live in. They read historians who have left centric views, who are not aware of such incidents, who are not aware whether Masterda Surya Sen's nails were torn off or his teeth were broken off. They are not aware of those things. And maybe they don't want people to be aware of those things. That's why they don't really write about them. One immediate incident from today, I would say. Today, since it was Rakhi Purnima, I had gone to Kumatuli to place the Protima Baina for our home. We have an ancestral puja at our Durga Puja at our home. So while crossing Hajra, I observed Ashutosh College. While I was crossing Ashutosh College, it has huge banners of certain political leaders I do not want to name on a live webinar. That is the injustice we as people are doing to this country and to the state specifically. We do not want people to know what it is relevant for. So having huge banners of certain a couple of politicians on Ashutosh College, that is a disgrace to Sir Ashutosh Mukherjee, Shama Prasad Mukherjee, as well as I would say to Jotindas, which is just a park to have your tiffin in the afternoon or to come out of the metro station. People are not aware about Jotindas, people are not aware about Onishilan, people are not aware about Jugantor. They cross Park Circus, they go to Mullik Bazaar to enjoy their biryanis. They don't know it is named after Raja Subhash Chandra Mullik. And they don't even know who is Raja Subhash Chandra Mullik. So all these things, we ourselves are the sole reasons for veiling that entire truth or the reality of the history. Just like how I saw today that certain politician figures or posters hid the reality behind Ashutosh College, which is named Ashutosh College, but the banners are of somebody else. So that's the sole purpose, and I hope I have answered the WhatsApp question accordingly.
Yeah, one more question I have. This is my question from my side.
Sure.
Just before this program, I was talking to Sri Anuj Dhar.
Right, right.
There are many evidences which proves that it was Gumnami Baba was none other than Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, and the theory that people give for DNA confirmation by DNA testing, it was totally flop. And he told that he had some evidence. He was supposed to tell our viewers about that. So
I know about Anujda and Chandrashuddha working on their
yes,
next book and the certain forensic reports they have in hand. Yes.
yes, absolutely right. So he was discussing about the same thing. So I want to know, do you think our present generation will ever come to know what the truth about Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose's life, or many such unsung heroes? There are many unsolved history in Indian politics and Indian freedom fight, freedom
It, it,
fought.
it is about how you present it, Gaurav, because since 1999 to 2021, it has been 22 years. I have known about Captain Vikram Batra. I have known about Lieutenant Manoj Pandey. I have known about Colonel Y.K. Joshi from back then, from 2003, 2004. But it requires a Siddharth Malhotra to come on screen on an Amazon Prime for people to go gaga over Captain Vikram Batra 22 years later. Similarly, uh, it's how you present, as I would say that no one knew about Peshwa Vishwanath or Peshwa Bajirao. They only came to know about Bajirao Ballar when he was casted opposite Deepika Padukone as Ranveer Singh. So we ourselves are responsible to put it forward to people to understand and see or even create such content that actually makes it to mainstream notice, observation. Because currently uh, the Gen Y, they do not really have time to go through history or not even they are interested about it. They go by hashtags and they go by social trending streams. So it's very important to create such streams everywhere. It's very important to highlight the importance of 18th of April when Masterda actually raided. Because as for us, the future is very important. The future needs to learn that 18th of April is as important as 2nd of October. And Abdul Kalam, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam's birthday is more important to be a Children's Day celebration than 14th of November. So it is us who should take it into our hands and create that idea or create that system where it reaches out to the next generation or the present generation in such a way that it makes an impact. Otherwise it won't really fall, it would fall into empty years, because it somehow would disrupt the entire process of ideating and the process of actually learning about where we belong. First thing for that, we need to be proud of where we come from. We need to be proud of what where we belong, and we need to be proud of who we are and why we are who we are. So I am fortunate that from my in-laws side of things, side of the family, they had pretty thick. They have family relations with Rishi Aurobindo as well as Raja Subhash Chandra Malik. So I have that benefit to know about certain more intrinsic details about that person on a personal level. But more importantly, one needs to stand there at Jadavpur near the Lenin statue and make people aware that Jadavpur is also named after Raja S.C. Mullik, just like Shealda. Because he was the person who put in the money and gave the money to Rishi Aurobindo to construct a science and technology college in Jadavpur to educate the Indians. So it is entirely upon how we create the ecosystem for the future to follow.
Thank you for your valuable inputs. Before concluding the session, I will just like to say something that it was on this 22nd of August in that it was declared that Netaji died in a plane crash. That was the info that was shared by Anuj Dharji. I forgot to share it on in the beginning. So just before concluding, I wanted to share this information for all our viewers that this is the real condition that we have forgotten about our real heroes, and we are just, if someone asks us about any Bollywood actor or a actress, we can tell anything about them, but about the real hero of Indian society or any society, we are not aware about them.
Absolutely,
So
because I completely agree with on what Anuj told you, or what Chandrachudha is currently working on, because 18th of August, which they claim, it is a farce, and when they tried to go by the proper commission, they finally forced Justice Mukherjee to back off from his conclusions. And if I do not want to get into any further things, because Onujda and Chandrachudha are experts and more eminent people to take this forward, but I would just ask one question to the very famous family of India, that if you had believed that 18th of August 1945, Subhash Chandra Bose died in a plane crash, why were you snooping on his family till 1970s and end 1960s? This is
absolutely,
one. Number two, I would want to ask is, if he actually died in a plane crash, why was Justice Mukherjee threatened and forced to retreat from his conclusions, which is also available on YouTube, where he's actually accepting the fact that whoever Gumnami Baba is matches with the dynamics and the basic ideas of Netaji, as well as the biological side as well. So
absolutely.
that being said, I'd leave Onujda and
Yeah,
Chandrachudha enough
actually,
to you.
we our viewers are very much unlucky that Anujda is unable to share all the thoughts that he was supposed to share about why what was the inputs from Mukherjee, Justice Mukherjee's report and other things. What was the his research on DNA theory and other. Why he claimed that it was Gumnami was Baba was none other than Subhash Chandra Bose. So it was our unfortunately we were unable to hear it,
I
but
I'll
soon
give you one.
he has promised me that soon he will be sharing that information on our platform as soon as
For
his
sure.
father is completely
For
fit.
sure. And there is a section which would also make you believe that Subhash Chandra Bose was married, and to a certain woman by the name of Emily Schenkel, and
Absolutely.
you will have six different Emily Schenkels. So let's keep it to Chandrachudha and Onujda to take it from here. I am I'm more of a collaborator, less of an expert as compared to them. So that's the thing, that people need to understand conundrum rather than wait for Srijit Mukherjee to make a movie, because The more you want to know about a person, the better you are enlightened about who you are in reality. Because as Bengalis, if we do not value our ideology, our existence, our culture, or our history, there is no way that we would kind of flourish in creating a better future, because the future is created based on previous yardsticks. And if we do not have yardsticks like Masterda or a Jyotindra Mohan Sengupta or a Jyotindranath Mukherjee or a Rajbihari, we cannot create future generations based on that future, designed accordingly to them.
I want to say something. We, the people of Bangladesh, always remember the contribution of our Masterda Surya Sen and Barrister Jyotindra Mohan Sen, Deshopriyo Jyotindra Mohan Sen.
Yes.
We have here the road named by Jyotindra Mohan Sen, Deshopriyo Road, Jamsen Hall. Jamsen means Jyotindra Mohan Sen Hall, Jamsen School, Jamsen College, and always we celebrate the birthday and death anniversary of Deshopriyo Jyotindra Mohan Sen. He is one uncle of my father. That is Dadu of mine. Then we remember Masterda Surya Sen. We celebrate the birthday of Masterda Surya Sen and death anniversary of Masterda Surya Sen. All young people of our Bangladesh uh, remember his contribution and honor him. Here is a Surya Sen Hall in Dhaka University in our Bangladesh. Chen Surya Sen library in his homestead. It was donated to the government of Bangladesh as a museum for his honor. And then we have Surya Sen Road, a statue of Surya Sen in Jamsen Hall. A statue of Surya Sen was made at the front of his home at Raujan. And statue of Surya Sen I have found in Calcutta University, in front of Calcutta University. I saw the James Sen College, Jyotindra Mohan College in Calcutta, West Bengal. Jyotindra Mohan College, Nelly Sen Gupta College and High School, Deshopriyo Road, Deshopriyo School in Calcutta, West Bengal. So they are proud of, they are our proud, and we pay a tribute to them, our hero, great
Thank
hero
you.
and pioneer of freedom. We salute her.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your valuable
Salute her.
input.
That is Nelly Sen Gupta. We
Yes,
salute although she is not a, she is an English lady, but she sacrificed her life for freedom with his husband, the Shopriya Jyotindra Mohan Sen. She was always with him on those days for to fight for freedom, you know. So she was well known to India and Bangladesh. Nelly Sen Gupta and Jyotirmohan Sen Gupta, also known to you. He was mayor of Calcutta for 18 years as a minister. So we are proud of them, those heroes. They are unsung heroes. Thank you very much.
absolutely, ma'am. Thank you so much for your time, ma'am, and for highlighting certain aspects which we are gradually forgetting. So we need people like you to come on and
Remember
make.
them. We should remember their contribution for our freedom. We
Absolutely,
salute we salute them.
absolutely. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you to all the viewers, to our esteemed speakers, Major General G.D. Bakshi, Dr. Rita Sen, Sourav Chakraborty, and also to Anuj Dhar, the who was unable to come, but still he gave us all the inputs that he wanted us to know. And before signing off, I will like to ask you to subscribe our channel if you haven't subscribed yet for many such programs on geopolitical, educational, healthcare, and socio-economical issues. Jai Hind. Thank you.